Okay, I'd like to call this Planning Commission work session to order for this Thursday, August 7th. My name is Carl Johnson. I'm the chairman of the Clark County Planning Commission. Before we begin tonight, I'd like to announce that our Planning Commission work sessions are hybrid, both in person and via WebEx. For the virtual in-person members of the Planning Commission and staff, please ensure that your microphones are turned off or muted unless you are speaking. There will not be any public comment during this work session, but members of the public can watch or listen. This evening's agenda is as follows. First, we will have the transportation improvement, the TIP program with Chris. Is it Carl or Carly?
Carl, thank you.
Carl, okay. The next one is the Stormwater Capital Plan with Devin Rostaford, and the Parks and Nature Capital Improvement Plan with David Stipe. After that, we'll have any comments from the Planning Commission. So with that said, I call it to order. And Chris, are you ready up first?
Yeah, all set. Thank you.
Okay, go right ahead.
All right, Jeff, thank you for all your help as always. You're always so fast with everything. Keeps things a lot less stressful this time of year. So I appreciate your efforts. This is the presentation that we sent through. This is the 2026-2031 Transportation Improvement Program. We will follow in 2 weeks to the hearing with the request for your support as the program follows the Capital Facility Plan transition to the Transportation Improvement Program. And next slide, please. A little bit about the agenda, the purpose, how we're going to go from the Capital Facility Plan, or how I'll refer to it from here as the CFP, to our Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP, our 6-year 2026 to 2031 TIP. The CFP and TIP mapping will show some projects of both and overlays, and as well as the listing of the CFP itself. The TIP construction schedule, then we'll go into some highlights from both 2024 and 2025, previous completed projects, as well as some that are in their final stages this year, as well as where we are with the schedule, and then the request or the prequel to the request that will follow in 2 weeks. And next slide, please. A little bit about the purpose. The whole process follows the both RCWs and Clark County Code, of which the TIP process is a type 4 type process, which involves not only advertisement and of the CIP, for example, but also going through the Planning Commission for their support before it's adopted in council, which will be in November. And next slide. This is a little bit about the flow chart of how it flows from steps well above what we do through the Growth Management Act and the Comprehensive Plan, Arterial Atlas, and the Circulation Plan, then creates a 20-year Capital Facility Plan, or CFP. From there, what we do is we take those projects, either large capital projects, which I'll show on the map to follow, or our ongoing program projects. They follow a determination, what we call scoring, to see when they would be brought into our 6-year program. That's our 6-year program TIP, and the annual construction program being the first year of the TIP. Both of those go through council adoption, and then from there we spring them off and create the actual projects, assigning them capital road project numbers, or CRPs, when they become active live projects. And next slide, please. This map is going to detail both of our large capital projects, which come directly from the CFP in name and termini. Sometimes we break up the termini for better funding opportunities, phasing, and the like. And those are the red lettered projects as well as the blue numbered projects. The difference being the red lettered projects, are the ones that we refer to as obligated. And really all that is projects that have either realized 30% of their project budgets, or projects that the county council has deemed important and obligated as they did for our 179th Street projects. The blue numbered projects are projects that are also from that CFP, just in more early stages. And then the green projects that are mapped are various projects through our 5 ongoing programs that we'll see on the construction schedule for the 2026 to 2031 TIP. And next slide, please. This map here is an overlay of our capital facility plan, those colors in purple, as well as the projects that have been brought in through the CFP, scoring them into the TIP, being the red overlay and the blue overlay, as well as the green overlay projects that won't be mapped for the purple, because the CFP does not detail those ongoing program projects. And next slide, please. John, has John joined?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I'll turn it over to John to go over the 6-year TIP construction schedule, as well as the 24 and 25 highlights. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Planning Commission, for the opportunity to present tonight. I'm going to talk about our large capital projects along with the ongoing program projects and the construction schedule in the next 6 years, and also some projects that we are working on currently and have completed. So this slide here shows like a timeline of our large capital projects that are on 179th Street. We currently have one project that's under construction. That's the 79th Street at 29th Avenue project. The red numbers that are listed next to the project are the total project costs, and that includes the design and engineering costs, the right-of-way costs, and the construction costs. So this project at 179th and 29th has just started and will continue through 2027. The rest of the projects on 179th Street, you can read those on your own. They're quite a ways out, starting in 2028 and continuing on out into 2032. Next slide, please. This is also a continuation of the large capital projects. These projects are the ones I'll just read them off. There's only 2 of them here. There's a segment project on 152nd between Patton Parkway and 99th Street. That project is scheduled to go out to bid and start this fall. And then the other project is on 72nd Avenue. And actually, we have an updated schedule on this that didn't make it onto the slide, but that project is going to be delayed out into 2030 at this point. Next slide. Now we're getting into our ongoing program projects. And these are the projects that don't show up in the ACP directly, but are budgeted in there. And there's 5 different categories of these projects, starting out with bridge, culvert replacement, repair, rehabilitation projects. Currently, we have Whipple Creek, which is scheduled for this year. And then for construction, these are all they're under design currently. I'm just talking about the construction phase of these projects. And then the rest of the projects don't kick in until 2027 and 2028. The other large ongoing program that we have is road preservation projects. We have 2 projects that are currently underway, one on Sunset Falls and one on Northwest 78th Street. And those should be completed this year. Then we have the St. John's Road pavement improvement, which is actually concrete panels. that's going to be going out to bid here in the fall. And then the Blair Road project, which is slated for construction next year. Next slide. Then we have our rural road improvement projects. We do have the 182nd Avenue at Risto Road. It actually, there's a roundabout at that intersection, but the project goes from the Salmon Creek, the bridge that goes over Salmon Creek, which is actually the J.C. Ward Road Bridge, up to 167th. And that project is scheduled to go out to bid this fall. And then we have the sidewalk ADA compliance projects. We currently have the 68th Street sidewalk, which is under construction right now and should be finished by the end of the year. We also have the Highway 99 sidewalk, which goes from 102nd Avenue to turns up and goes up 104th, and that's been awarded, and the construction is starting now. We have two more on this in this category: the Truman School and the Highway 99 sidewalk project, which is another segment for between 110th and 117th, and those aren't scheduled to start until 2026 and 2027, 2028, respectively. Next slide, please. And then finally, under our ongoing programs, we have our transportation safety improvement project schedules. We're just wrapping up. Actually, it's complete now. The roundabout at 119th and 152nd. And then we have another roundabout at Ward Road and Davis Road that won't be going out to bid until 2027. And those are all our large ongoing program projects. In the next slides, we've got some before, during, and after photos of some of the projects. Next slide, please. That have been completed. These are 2024 projects. This series of photos shows the 119th, 152nd roundabout, and it started in 2024 and ended in 2025. So it says 2024, but it just completed. And then we also have well, go to the next slide and it can show you the photos for that, for these other projects that are on here. We had a pedestrian improvement project that was part of a Complete Streets program that was on 130th between the Patton Parkway Trail and 76th Street, and did improvements at the school that's there, and also at the crossing of the Patton Parkway Trail across 130th. The other project that is now complete also, it was the intersection at 179th and 50th. There's a big development that's going on out there at that intersection, and this improved the intersection, adding a turn lane. Next slide. And then this are the projects that are completed in 2025. I had mentioned these in the previous schedule slides, but there's some before and during and after pictures in here. This is the 68th Street sidewalk project that goes from Highway 99 over to St. John's, and some photos of that sidewalk. Next slide. I think this is the last slide here for these updates. This one shows the Northwest 78th Street, which goes from Lakeshore Ave up to Hazeldale. And this was an overlay project. We updated all the ADA ramps along the way, and put in new siding and striping. And then the last project that I have on here, which is part of the ongoing programs for the HMA overlays, and this is sort of just some generic pictures. They actually take place all over the county, but this is just some photos from some of the projects. And I think that's all I have for the project photos. And then I'm going to turn it over to Chris for wrapping it up.
Thank you, John. Jeff, are you driving here? Is it possible to go to the CFP list, that separate document that I just sent over today? Apologies.
Yeah.
We'll have that into our slide presentation as well as a separate document in 2 weeks' time. This is a short list. There's more to the capital facility plan. I think the Planning Commission is fairly aware of this. We're in the process of updating our comprehensive plan, and then as a sub of that, updating our 20-year CFP. That's why it's listed here. It still have the 2015 to 2035 banding. This was a 2022 update. But in the large capital projects, those that were mapped in red letters and blue numbers, they will come directly from this menu, if you will. I wanted to clarify when John was talking about the ongoing programs, that they're not listed on the CFP. They are in the ACP. The ACP is by year of our business and a breakdown of our TIP. But the ongoing programs specifically don't populate from the listing, but the programs themselves are part of the capital facility plan itself. So just wanted to clarify there. But early on, these budgets have been updated. But when these projects are brought in to our TIP, it's common for them to then realize their truer costs as they get closer, especially on the 179th Street projects that could be in development design for 8 years or more due to the complexity and size of those projects. So thank you for that, Jeff. If we could then jump back to the presentation and we could wrap it up, and specifically, I think the schedule here, where we are today, August 7th, before the Planning Commission work session. In 2 weeks' time, we'll come back for the hearing. To follow this, we'll present before DEEB, Development Engineering Advisory Board, and public notice will then go out for our council process. Our work session for council is scheduled for October 15th, and we haven't finalized the hearing, but it's either going to be November 4th or the 19th. And then it has to be adopted, both the TIP, the ACP, and our ongoing program matrix underneath the TIP, before county adopts our county budget in December. And then the final slide, if you will, please. So the request is not so much a request tonight, but a prequel to what our request will be in 2 weeks, is for Planning Commission support, strictly that our plan follows the capital facility plan, the 20-year capital facility plan transition to our 6-year TIP, and that we're coming back in 2 weeks' time before the Planning Commission on August 21st. There's a link here for more information, and now we'll just open it up for comments, anything specifically that you might want to see added. If we can't do it in time for the hearing, we could always supplement it with any other additional materials. And again, thank you for the opportunity, as John said, to present, and we'll be back in 2 weeks for the hearing. Any comments or questions?
Go ahead, gentlemen. Just make sure you state your name. If you just jump on, whoever.
Yeah, Commissioner Halbert here. Just a question on how has material prices over the last year affected your updates on costs?
Yeah, that was always challenging, Commissioner Halbert. Early on during COVID, there was a huge spike. Prior to county, I was in tunneling and bridges, so a little bit different materials here with roads, but our aggregates did spike. I think they've been relaxed a lot. There's still material issues, especially when we get into utility coordinations. that are huge challenges. And unfortunately, we have been faced with lack of participation, if you will, from utilities because of most projects that we have are federally funded. We're very thankful for all the funding that we do get. In fact, this year we did get an additional 10.3 million of federal funds across 3 projects. And when the federal dollars are involved, the rules to follow that, everything tends to be a little bit more expensive. So our material costs have kind of been relaxed, thankfully, from that spike during COVID. But unfortunately, we're still facing some issues with material acquisition timelines.
Thanks.
This is Eldon. So on the completed projects, when you say there's a budget, like the first one, it's the 119th Street, and it was a budget of 6.3 million.
Yes.
Is that the budget that was established like 5 or 6 years ago?
No,
is
those
that
are
the final
updated
cost?
numbers, Elvin.
These are updated costs, so this is
Yeah.
how much it costs. So do you keep track then of what it originally estimated to be to what it actually turned out to be?
Yeah, so the budgets that were listed, are you talking about the construction schedules? Those are all in, so that is design, right of way, as well as construction, including any consultant design, agency costs, inspection costs, and the like. They will also include utility partnerships and some projects that are partnership with either the City of Vancouver 68th Street sidewalk, for example, or WashDOT. But we will get partnership dollars to offset the costs. So they could be a little misleading as far as a number itself, but typically the partnership dollars aren't that much in comparison. But yeah, they tend to, and I've tried to make that point when you look at the budget from the capital facility plan, which had been updated for inflation, but I don't know what level of estimating goes into those. But on the case of 179th Street at 29th, for example, originally that wasn't planned to need 2 bridges of work. And as they got into design, it faced the fact that they needed to do 2 bridges as part of that project, and it became a lot more expensive than it was planned to be at the planning stage.
Okay.
I did just look up 119th, 152nd, which I think is the one that you had mentioned. And 2 years ago, our estimate was 5.7 million, and it came in at 6.1. So, yeah, that was maybe I was just looking at the construction. No, that's a total project. So it did go up. And I was thinking back 2 years because now here we are in 2025 looking at most of the projects that are in 2027 in our the estimates that are on that schedule. So it did go up, but
I was just curious if the county keeps track of how much your original estimate is to how much it finally cost. And then maybe you apply that factor when you do the estimate. So you try to plan in those extra costs that might happen, using historical data.
sure.
That's it.
Thank you, Elvin.
We
This
calculate
is
in inflation, and that's not the same, but a typical thing to do.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a lot more than inflation. Typically, it involves a lot deeper of a project than is originally planned. Bridges, extreme utilities that might be on our cost versus a utility that has to move out of their own out of our right of way. If we have to move them out of their right of way, it becomes a lot more costly. But there's a lot of complexities that go into the project that I don't think are estimated at the early stage. But unfortunately, yes, price escalation is something that the program unfortunately faces.
This is Commissioner Fadness. I just wanted to ask, revolving around the projects on 179th, since they're kind of in the ballpark of about $100 million total, I assume that there's that you guys are targeting WashDOT and federal dollars for these projects, especially because it's around I-5. Can you speak to, has there been any amounts allocated by the state yet, or what you guys are expecting to receive from WashDOT or federal funds?
Yeah, I want to be clear that WashDOT is both our federal agent who helps us out immensely there. They're also going to cover a portion on the east side adjacent to their interchange work that will save us from a lost segment that we had not picked up with one of our other projects. But WashDOT does not directly fund us outside of any grants that we may apply through their programs. Delfell Road, for example, an HFP National Highway Freight Program had $4 million of funding through that WashDOT program. So yes, they'll fund it through their grant programs, but not any dollars that come directly from WashDOT. But they do support us as the federal agent, which we're blessed for that.
And do you guys have a target amount for the grants, or is that still?
Well, yes, and good question. The federal programs, the main programs that we go through, both with RTC as well as the Transition Improvement Board on the state level, are typically capped at federally $4 million or $5 million, depending on the phase that we apply for per lane mile. So when the projects are not a mile long, they typically receive less than that $4 or $5 million maximum, and then we typically get up to about $4 million from TIB. So unfortunately, the larger the projects get, the more expensive they will be from a county standpoint, because that maximum is only so much. However, 179th at 29th was capped at 1.5 million as an interchange. And it did, thankfully, due to some extra dollars that came into the region, receive an extra 8 million of that 10.3 that I mentioned earlier. It's not always common to get these extra dollars. We have received it in numerous projects recently in the past. 119th at 152nd, John went over that recently completed project, 68th Street sidewalk, and others in recent years. So we have been blessed with extra funding in addition to those maximums.
This is Commissioner Haroon. So just to clarify, is the numbers that we're looking at, is there any assumption for inflation within those numbers, that especially the ones that are farther out?
The earlier, yeah, the further out they are, they do always carry a 30% contingency. And it is my understanding that inflation is part of that. But again, the challenge is unfortunately just not the inflation as much as identifying the true nature of the work.
Sure. Yeah, there's not a completed design, and it is a pretty wild guess. I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, the 179th Street segment on 15th to 26th Avenues, for example, needed to be built up in elevation so the stormwater could flow through gravity. That's going to then take rewalls for support of the roadway itself and the like. So that's the types of complexities that tend to drive up the cost of the project as well, as inflation. But I think inflation would be a lot more easily estimatable than the nature of the work itself.
Yeah, without a completed design. Next question is, do we build to city standards, especially in the areas that the cities are going to planning on annexing?
Not yet, as I know that there's no annexation planning that I'm aware of, but otherwise we follow WashDOT standard plans and any special specifications that we would have on a county level.
Okay, I think I bring that up because I know, like on Highway 99, the city has mentioned that that there's when they take over county property, or when they annex them in or bring them in, through their UGA, that they have to upgrade. So because they operated two different standards, and I just was wondering if there was any coordination with the city, or there's any talking about that, if it's a close project, that there's
the first thing I heard about the annexation, other than the earlier through Coin or through the news. It was last week's council, so I can't speak on that. But if there are any plans of projects that may be annexed, I think, like you said, it'll be in good to see what their standards are. In the lighting, for example, they have much different lighting standards than we do. And there's a project, I believe it's on 94th Avenue, right by the Leichner landfill, that they're going to annex a piece of that for their new facility there, that they're actually paying for the change of those standards there that are going in.
Okay. So, but there's no direct coordination currently.
Not that I'm aware of, but there could be. Yeah, there could be.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson, hey, just a out of the box question. Is chip sealing maintenance or construction? Road
Yeah,
construction?
that's considered our maintenance, and that's not part of our transition improvement program. However, the chip sealing may then kick off the need for any ramp work, or what we refer to as our ADA preservation ADA, and that would be in our program.
Yeah, I bring it up because I'm seeing a ton of it, and I mean this just for the record. I'm from the rural north up above the center, and they just did a stellar job up there, and it's just beautiful. I mean, I built roads years ago, and I run on that road, and I was like, wow, somebody put some extra care. So I was just curious if you had shifted that over to, but I didn't see it here. So maybe
Yeah, chip seals, cape seals, they're on our maintenance side. However, we did have a special opportunity for a chip seal on Northeast Sunset Falls Road, which we did an overlay on not too long ago, because it is a federal land through a FLAP grant. We were able to get grant funding for that resurfacing as a chip seal. But our county road chip seals, that's handled through our preservation group and not part of the transportation improvement program.
Yeah, if you get a chance, let your guys know. Good job.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Great update, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, I'll be back in 2 weeks. Thank you. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on. A handy dandy cheat sheet. We're going to go with Stormwater Capital Plan with Devin Rostaford. Devin, are you there?
Hi, good evening. I'm Devin Rostaford. I was still here at 5:30, so I was like, I might as well come upstairs. Great to meet you all. I'm Devin Rostaford, I'm the Clean Water Division Manager. I'm here on behalf of Jeff Schnabel, who is our Stormwater Infrastructure and Assessment Services Manager, who oversees all of our stormwater capital program planning and implementation. So I'm going to do my best to answer all of your questions, and I hope I make Jeff proud, but he's on a much needed vacation right now, and he will be here though for the hearing on August 21st. So next slide. So the goals for this presentation today are to provide an overview of our 2026 to 2031 stormwater capital plan and program. We developed a 6-year capital plan. And within the presentation, I'll give a little bit of background on what drives this capital planning process, which is our stormwater permit, as well as our goals and some of the regulatory requirements, and provide a recap of our 2025 capital year, as well as some of the priorities, project types, and funding that we're using in our 2026 to 2031 plan. And then a little bit about next steps and public outreach in the schedule. So just a few reminders, our stormwater capital program, it's not focused on constructing stormwater facilities to support new development. So when Chris was just presenting, you saw there were some stormwater projects associated with roads that are linked to new construction. We're not building stormwater facilities for that new development, and private stormwater facilities associated with residential development or commercial development are done by those private property owners. So we're really focused on retrofitting the old impervious areas that don't have stormwater treatment. So that's the main focus is where do we have old roads, parking lots, impervious surfaces that currently do not have stormwater facilities or have stormwater facilities that aren't working or need to be brought up to current standards. I do also want to mention that we do have a nexus to the capital facilities plan as well as the comprehensive plan as starting in 2025. Implementation of some of our stormwater capital program is funded by real estate excise tax 2 or REIT 2, which is a direct linkage to the 20-year capital facilities plan. And just as far as with Clark County Council, my understanding is that our capital plan is unique because it's adopted annually by resolution. Formal adoption isn't necessarily required, but we do it because it's helpful and it's important to make sure that council is supportive as well as planning commission. So on the next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit about the framework and regulatory requirements that drive our stormwater capital plan. So number one is to meet our phase 1 municipal stormwater permit requirements. So Clark County has a stormwater permit. Those regulations are set by the Environmental Protection Agency, pass through to Washington State, and then pass through to the county. And there is a wide range of activities that we're required to do that range from capital planning to operations and maintenance, inspection. But really all of these activities are done with the goal to protect and enhance our local streams and lakes and wetlands and to minimize stormwater impacts to receiving waters, while also just maximizing public benefits on county lands. Within our phase 1 municipal stormwater permit, there's a section called the Stormwater Management for Existing Development, which is really our capital plan. And every year we have to submit that to Department of Ecology, there is a direct nexus for us to stay in compliance with our permit. I also wanted to mention that we have an underground injection control program related to dry wells and UICs as the acronym for that. And so we do have a requirement to address any dry wells and provide treatment of stormwater that enters dry wells that may pose a threat to groundwater. So there is a connection to source water protection and drinking water as well. Next slide, please. So just a quick summary, and I think these were not intended to be highlighted in yellow. So I just wanted to clarify that if you have any questions of why are those highlighted in yellow. These were added since the first submission that we submitted to you. There was an update. So those were the new information added. But for 2025, we had 8 projects in the construction phase, which is a large year for us. One project that we're really proud of is the Heritage Farm Wetland Restoration Project. This is our flagship wetland restoration project. It's been in the works for many years, and it's at a county-owned property. It's owned by Parks. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as we go through this, but they just broke ground this summer. And we also have 3 water quality focused projects. These are the traditional stormwater retrofits that are helping treat runoff from roads. And they have really long names, but most of them are located around Highway 99th, Northeast 99th, and Northwest 99th. And a lot of those are associated with providing upgrades to catch basins and the filter cartridges to help remove pollutants from stormwater. We also do reforestation. We have a project out on the East Fork Lewis River. We refer to it as a Schreiber project, where we're planting trees, which is considered by the Department of Ecology a capital project. Additionally, we have some major repair projects happening this year. The names are listed on the screen, and we're required to do those major repair projects. Again, when we do an inspection and a facility isn't functioning as it's intended to, anything over $25,000, Ecology requires us to address it within our 6-year capital plan. We are doing some post-construction establishment of projects that were previously constructed. So for our reforestation projects, we're out there inspecting it and doing any maintenance, watering, and replacing any trees that may need to be replaced. And that work is focused on the Salmon Creek Greenway at Cougar Creek. I also had mentioned that we have 8 projects in the design hopper right now. So we're building projects, but we're also designing projects. And the budget for our 2025 stormwater capital program is 5.5 million. So we're in the thick of that right now. For 2026 to 2031, some of our priorities include, again, those required capital repair projects, anything that has been identified that needs to be fixed over $25,000. We also focus a lot of our work on water quality treatment in Lower Salmon Creek tributaries, such as, if you're familiar with Salmon Creek, Cougar, Suds, Tenney, and 114th Street in the lawn. So kind of centered around that Hazel Dell area, Salmon Creek area where I-205 and I-5 come together. We also do a lot on reforestation of county lands, and then we also help support property acquisition for stormwater benefit. So if you're familiar with our county lands program, we've been a joint funder to help acquire many of those properties that are ultimately used for restoration. And one of the things that we're really proud of is last year we completed a rate study and put together a 5-year plan to ramp up our services so that we can provide to get start addressing more aging infrastructure and ramping into larger major repairs for some of the detention ponds as well as our older infrastructure. So that we're taking care of what we have while the county's also building new stormwater infrastructure. So on the next slide, here's a map of our capital projects. This is from 2025 to 2030. So last year's capital plan. Most of them, again, are in this central area, Hazel Dell, Lower Salmon Creek. Most of these are within Vancouver's urban growth area. Okay, so a little bit about our funding from that pie chart shows how we've funded our stormwater program since 2011, and most of our funding for our projects comes from the Clean Water Fund. Our program is unique in that we're an enterprise fund. We charge stormwater rates. They go out annually on property tax assessments, and they're either based on the number of dwelling units on a property or the quantity of impervious surfaces. So that is a fund that we bring in and use to pay for public projects. We also utilize state grant programs, particularly from Department of Ecology's Stormwater Financial Assistance Program and their Centennial Clean Water Program. And we've gotten a few state provisos or direct appropriations for our capital fund. For this year, there's a breakdown of the different fund types that are paying for our capital plan. So we're expending $7.2 million from our Clean Water Fund on capital projects and about equivalent amount from the Real Estate Excise Tax 2 Fund or REIT 2 at $7.2 million. We have $5.1 million in grants that are paying for our 6-year capital plan. And then unique this year, we received our first low interest loan from the State Revolving Loan Fund program. Those loans, if you're familiar, are often used for like wastewater treatment plants and drinking water treatment plants, but they are now also providing them for green projects. And our Heritage Farm project is actually being paid for through the State Revolving Loan Fund. And it was really a great opportunity for us because they offered us $3.4 million. It's a 20-year loan at a 0.4% interest rate. So just considering inflation over time, it's a really great way for us to spread out the cost of that project and help keep our rates lower, because otherwise we would have had to recover that money, and that would have resulted in larger rates for the last 5 years. So we're excited to continue pursuing more loans for our projects. On the next slide, looking ahead to 2026, my apologies. I think my slides may have gotten, I'm shuffling all this paper. So looking ahead to 2026, we have 7 construction projects slated. Some are major repair projects. One is a Fraser Pond clean out. This is a large detention pond that is full of sediment, which means it's not able to receive as the quantity of stormwater that it was designed. You know, you fill it up with sediment, less volume can be managed. We also have some another detention pond major maintenance project, as well as a project, another stormwater facility repair on Patton. We have two new projects again on Highway 99. These are water quality projects. We're really excited because we've been invested for multiple years in projects on Highway 99. Essentially, it's a large thoroughfare. You probably are all driving it at some point. The whole area wasn't treated, and we're excited these last two projects will be our final projects to have provided water quality treatment to that area. We're also going to be doing another phase 2 of the Schreiber Northwest Reforestation Project, as well as supporting some natural areas acquisition. We will be shifting our focus to that plant establishment that I described earlier for both the Schreiber Reforestation Phase 1 as well as supporting the plant establishment at the Heritage Farm Wetland Restoration Project. And again, we'll be in the design phase for 8 projects. Our budget is a little bit lower next year. I think that's primarily because these repair projects are smaller than the larger projects, the larger construction projects, and we'll have more projects in the design phase. Okay, moving on, just looking ahead, SMED, that's another acronym. So when I mentioned that we have this stormwater management for existing development requirement in our permit, our whole capital plan is designed to achieve a certain point value. We have to show ecology that we are implementing enough projects to earn the points that we need to earn in our stormwater permit. So we continue to update that every year just to make sure we're staying on track with our permit compliance. We're also continuing to do retrofit planning to identify future projects at the subbasin level. This is to help support, we do a lot of work on lakes and watershed plan implementation. Right now we're focusing a lot on urbanized Mill Creek, as well as Upper Curtin and Patton Creek. And we have a 6 and 20 year intensive planning process underway in the Lower Salmon Creek watershed focused on enhancing our sediment removal. We're continuing to advance our reforestation program, and we're doing a lot right now to focus on, again, asset management. What can we do to start repairing, identifying the most critical infrastructure for repair and maintenance to help us avoid failure, as well as we're building a new pipe inspection program where we will begin to TV all of the underground pipes in Clark County to begin proactively repairing pipes, as well as we're preparing for some large changes to our street sweeping program. Department of Ecology has significantly increased the amount of streets that we have to sweep and the frequency. So we're getting ready and in a process right now to identify those the streets that are most likely to have the greatest impact on local water quality. And then we're just continuing right now. Our planning scale is really more intensively focused on a 6-year planning scale, but we have a ton of projects identified. So we're continuing to resume our long-term 20-year capital planning process. This next graphic, Chris presented, we're on the same schedule as our transportation improvement plan. So you'll be seeing Jeff, who is really the expert on all of the projects. And he'll be here on August 21st and then for the public hearing. And then one unique thing, though, compared to the transportation and parks plan is that we have a Clean Water Commission. It's a 9-member volunteer appointed commission that advises county council on the Clean Water Division. So they will also receive a presentation in this process. And so we have the same request again as Chris. We're seeking your questions, your input, your comments ahead of the hearing, and then asking for your support of the Stormwater Capital Plan. And then we will be proceeding following the Planning Commission hearing with a work session with County Council, and then ultimately requesting a resolution for them to adopt our capital plan. So thank you for your time. It was great to be here, and I'm very jealous that you get dinner at your meetings. I love ranch pizza. I'm gonna definitely take a slice on my way out. But I will try to answer any of your questions. And anything I can't answer, I'll make sure Jeff follows up with you.
Any questions, Eldon?
2 questions. So reforestation, you have $900,000. Do you have an estimate on how many acres that would reforest?
Ooh, which project are you specifically?
Well, I'm just looking
referring
at
to?
your project types, 31 projects. Oh, it didn't. Page 8.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a pie, it says $900,000.
For 3 projects, I can pull out the total number of acres that is paying for and get you an exact number. I don't know that number off the top of my head. I apologize.
No, that's all right. That's all
But
right.
I can add that up and give it to you before I leave.
And then my second question, I'm sure you've heard that planting trees is one way to take the carbon dioxide out of the air. Has there been any discussion about increasing the budget for reforestation to offset the climate change?
That's a great question. So I would say that recently we completed the first urban tree canopy assessment of Clark County's urban growth areas. So now we have a baseline of what our current status of tree canopy is. As of 2023, that was the data set we were working with. We also now know the difference in how tree canopy has changed from 2011 to 2023. And with that information, we have a requirement under our stormwater permit to establish goals and policies for enhancing and protecting tree canopy in Clark County. We have to establish those goals by 2028. And reading the tea leaves, if we're being asked to map tree canopy and set goals around preserving and planting trees, we're anticipating that in our next permit that will likely be requirements for us to enhance our tree canopy and plant more trees. And I just wanted to acknowledge, we've been coordinating very closely with Jenna Kay, who's leading the climate advisory group as well, to make sure that we're aligning our work with the policies that are coming out. There are policies within that on tree canopy, and we'll be a key implementer of those policies.
So the answer is yes.
Yes. Sorry, I'm a chatty. I will talk all night.
Because I would anticipate that number should go up substantially. to
Well, the
reforest.
county has a lot of land that is available to plant, and so we continue to want to make that investment. We have a dedicated reforest.
And do you feel like there's a strong push within the county to do that?
I would say we're at the beginning of our urban tree canopy program development. We just had a joint commission meeting with the City of Vancouver's Urban Forestry Commission to learn about what they're doing, because they're very advanced on their programs. And I have requested a work session with council to present the results of the urban tree canopy assessment and to get their policy direction essentially on where we go from here on developing those programs.
Because I would like to see nothing better than to, some months from now, have an article in the Columbian saying Clark County is increasing its reforestation and tripling its budget because this is the right thing to do. I'd like to see
We could
that.
quote you. That would be great.
Maybe I should work for, I just want to have assurance that there's some strong advocacy within the county to do that.
Thank you for that comment. And I will make sure I take that back to Jeff and also just express a support from you as a commissioner for more reforestation.
And I'm pretty sure that everybody else would agree with that.
I hope trees. I love trees.
I love
Thank you.
trees too. Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. I just have to warn you, I'm an engineer, and so stormwater just gets me a little worked up, honestly. I know. So I'm just curious on the wetland restoration project here. As part of that, does the county get to bank wetland mitigation credits for future projects?
That's a great question. My understanding is there isn't a wetland mitigation banking component to this project in particular. We do have in our 5-year plan, we have identified we have money set aside to begin to identify potential wetland mitigation bank development. Because we also have to buy credits for our
Right.
projects. So I would say in the next 5 years, we'll be more in that scoping and working to identify potential locations.
Yeah, because I definitely see this as that can be a benefit where you're improving stormwater quality, but then also allows us to save money in the future when there is wetland mitigation needed.
Yeah, I would say not this particular project, but that is definitely something that's on our radar. And actually, I was just talking with my leadership about yesterday as something that we could be looking to not only for us to save money, but also as a way to generate revenue
Yep.
for our programs.
And then my other question is regarding water quality. And so one of the kind of the big issues we run into every summer around here is we have the algae blooms in pretty much every body of water. A lot of that seems to be caused by nitrogen in stormwater runoff. And so is there any projects that are looking to address that, or at least begin to maybe try to address that?
Great question. So we actually just made a programmatic commitment to, for all of our public facilities that have filter cartridges in them, that we will be switching to Phosphosorb, which are focused on providing that enhanced phosphorus removal. We are also in the process of updating our stormwater code and manual. And we are looking at revising that code language to ensure that the drainages discharging to Vancouver Lake now have phosphorus removal as a requirement that already exists in the Lacamas watershed. But at the end of the day, I would say all of our projects have a performance measure to remove 80% of total suspended solids, and which sediment, and phosphorus binds to that sediment. And so all of these projects have a benefit to water quality. And I would also mention that we're in the process right now of hiring a dedicated lakes and watershed coordinator for the first time. And that position will be focused solely on what can we do at the watershed level in partnership with our capital planning to address exactly what you just pointed out, which is the nutrient loading to our lakes.
Okay, awesome. And then last question, I'll stop, otherwise I'll probably go all night. But I'm just curious, does the county operate on an MS4 permit like a municipality would within the urban growth area?
Yes, so we have for the whole county, actually, for the whole unincorporated area, as well as the the unincorporated UGAs. We have a phase 1 municipal stormwater permit. So like, for example, Ridgefield, Vancouver, Battleground, they're phase 2, as well as Camas. The phase 1 is triggered for, I can't remember the exact census year, but it was for populations over 100,000. And phase 2, the trigger is 10,000. So we've been permitted for a long time, and a lot of everything we do is driven by those permit requirements, as well as this capital plan.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, and we can always chat more if you have more questions.
Hopefully some questions. When we take a loan out, does that, we just take the payment and then mark that payment kind of for a minute? It just comes out of the budget, but we're getting some long-term savings, obviously, from basically a zero interest loan.
Yeah, and so in order to accept the loan, we had to put together our forecast of how we're going to repay the loan, because it's a capital loan, but we ultimately repay it out of our operating budget. I believe our annual repayment over 20 years is on a $3.4 million loan is about $180,000 at that fixed interest rate. So based on our analysis, we're saving money by just fixing that interest rate. I don't know if that answers your question, but it's good debt ultimately to have.
Yeah. And following up on Kyle's question about land banking or water treatment banking there. Is that a missed opportunity at this? Because isn't it just because it was optional, correct, to do this restoration project?
So the Heritage Farm Wetland Restoration Project is considered a non-point source pollution reduction project. It wasn't designed as a wetland mitigation project. If this were, my understanding is that, wetland mitigation banks require a very high level of, to become certified. And I don't believe that this was constructed in a way to, become a bank. And I don't want to speak I think that Jeff would be better to answer your questions. Because I wasn't here for that decision-making process or to know if that was considered through the design. So
I would be
apologize.
curious, and then if there was something prior to finishing that, if that was an opportunity, that we would go, oh, look, for another extra this certification, we then have these credits in the future, which may save us millions later.
I will take that and flag that for Jeff, and hopefully he can bring you an answer at the hearing, if not sooner, over email.
And this is a curiosity question. The Salmon Creek Trail, one of my more favorite
Yeah.
family outings. Is that part of your purview as far as like water stuff? And then, and when you see something like, I don't know, there's the little duck pond there with all the turtle stuff, it's starting to silt in. Is that something that we're like, oh, that's what wetlands do? They silt in and then it turns into meadow, or is that part of the water quality?
Yeah, great question. I don't want to speak specifically to that. I don't know exactly what's causing that sediment, or I'm not familiar with what the pond that you're talking about, so I don't want to point to any sort of cause. But we have supported the acquisition of the Salmon Creek Greenway, and we do continue to support restoration of the Greenway. We have a Suds Creek, which goes into Turtle Pond, design project happening right now that will ultimately be an in-stream restoration project to enhance habitat. We also recently got a grant to do a restoration project on Cougar Creek that adds large wood and does some stream bank restoration and reforestation. So, I mean, that is the bread and butter of our program. And we do a lot of work in the Salmon Creek Greenway and continue also to support the education and outreach programs that there's a lot of students that go down there and plant trees. So it's a great place for us to continue to do work. And it's also where most of our stormwater infrastructure is. So there's a lot of alignment. It is Lower Salmon Creek receives a lot of that, our stormwater runoff generated by the county.
Oh, that's great public resource. And we're there every week. So
Great.
thank you.
Very good, Devin. Very informative. Thank you very much. Any more questions? All right. Okay. See you in
You'll be seeing Jeff, who
Jeff.
probably, again, has probably better answers than I do, but thank you for
You
your
did a
time.
great job. Thank you.
Oh, yes, I will ask him how many acres. Okay, thank you for keeping me honest. Okay, I will come back to you with any information I have on the wetland bank, and if that was considered with Heritage Farm, how many acres will be planted for $900,000, and then I can see if there's any information on the ponds that you mentioned, Commissioner Jack. And I'll leave my business cards as well.
Okay. Thank you again, Devin. David, Parks and Nature Capital Improvement Plan. You there? Are you here?
I sure am. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, great.
Thanks to the Planning Commission for allowing us to present information about our 6-year capital plan. This is the first time that I've been before this body to make a presentation. I'm not quite sure when the last time was that the Parks Division presented to the Planning Commission. So really happy to be here this evening. I am here representing my capital program specialist colleague, Justin Morgan, and Ross Hoover, our division manager. And so we'll have a slightly different presentation this evening than you've heard with a little bit of more history or a little background on the structure of the Parks Division, given the fact that it used to be part of the Vancouver Clark Park District. So next slide, please. Again, an agenda. We'll talk about the Parks and Nature, give you an overview. We'll talk about our Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Plan. I'll give you a capital plan overview. We'll talk about our planning process to get to this point, and then give a little timeline and then an opportunity for questions, and make the same request that both the transportation folks and the clean water folks have made. I just don't have a fancy slide with that request on it. So that time I'll make the request. So next slide, please. So some of you may already know this, but some of you may not. We were part of the Vancouver Clark Parks District until 2013. At that time, for whatever reason, the interlocal agreement was not renewed for there to be a unified park district for Vancouver and the rest of the county. And we struck out on our own. And so the Clark County Parks and Nature Division administers the Metropolitan Park District, which is the unincorporated part of the city of Vancouver, which is the area in the lighter tan color, lighter yellow color, with the PIF districts of 5 through 10. So those are our park improvement fee districts, and the rest of the county, the unincorporated part of the county. So our neighborhood parks and our regional parks are in our neighborhood parks and our community parks, excuse me, are in the Greater Clark Park District, the Metropolitan Park District. It's formed that way. And then our regional parks and our regional open spaces are out in the unincorporated part of the county. We do not manage any park facilities within the other metropolitan areas of the county, nor any facilities within the urban growth areas of those metropolitan areas, with a couple of exceptions, one of them being Gordy Jolma Family Natural Area, which is the little orange open space parcel there you see in the southeast corner battleground. Next slide, please. This is just a zoom in of the Greater Clark Park District itself. Again, that area inside the urban growth boundary of the city of Vancouver, but not within the city limit. The numbered parcels that you see on there are our neighborhood parks, which are like 1/2 to 5 acre parcels that serve neighborhoods within a 1/2 mile. So they're designed to be walkable facilities. They typically don't have restrooms or parking lots and those sorts of things. And then the green, the sort of lime green parcels are actually labeled. Those are our community parks. Those parks are 10+ acres typically. They're designed to serve areas up to about a 3-mile radius, but many of them serve the entire metropolitan area and beyond. Next slide, please. So here's just a quick breakdown of our lands, the lands that we manage. We have a very large portfolio of both developed and undeveloped properties. 750 acres of our land is developed, and 2,600 of the 2,600 total acres. And breakdown is 13 regional parks, 14 community parks, and 47 neighborhood parks. And then we also have 16 undeveloped sites in the Greater Clark Park District, which is the metropolitan area, the urban growth within the urban growth boundary of the city of Vancouver. 2 of those are community park sites, and 14 of them are neighborhood park sites. So we have, that's our focus when we talk about sort of capital park development, where it has been our focus for the last several years. And we're shifting a little bit to a different category of capital development. We'll get into that a little bit as we move along through these slides. So next slide, please. So just like the transportation improvement plan, the county is required by state statute, the Growth Management Act, to have a parks department and to develop a parks, recreation, and open space plan. And the goal, planning goal number 9 in that RCW basically says that we're tasked with retaining open space and green space, so forth and so on. And then that last sort of line and a half, and develop parks and recreation facilities. And so that's what we do. And the way we do that, next slide, next slide, please. Is we develop a parks, recreation, and open space plan, which helps us establish goals and objectives, and it informs the capital plan, which we're presenting to you this evening. And those priorities are established through a level of service analysis. So again, I mentioned a few minutes ago, level of service for a neighborhood park is a 1/2 mile radius, and a community park is a 3-mile radius. And then the regional parks are pretty much countywide. And so we establish some development goals and prioritization based on that gap analysis. And so we do it 2 different ways. We do it by that radius method, which is a bit of an old school method of developing a level of need, and the tried and true acres per 1,000 residents. And so those all those things are identified in the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Plan. Next slide, please. This is just a reminder that that we have those 2 different areas of service within the urban growth area and beyond. And it's also to mention that we develop these parks within the urban growth boundary using park improvement fee money that is paid by developers when they develop subdivisions, and real estate excise tax, which is something that both the Transportation Division, well, all 3 of us, the Transportation Division, Clean Water Division, and Parks, have access to real estate excise tax too. So, but the 16 properties that we will be developing over the next several years will all rely primarily on park impact fees. Next slide, please. In our capital improvement plan, which up until perhaps 2 years from now has been operating as our capital facilities plan, we don't actually have a 20-year capital facilities plan, despite the requirement. And the reason we don't is because we didn't have a planning department at Parks and Nature until the end of 2021. We had no planning staff, and so we didn't have the capacity to develop that facilities plan. We're going to be developing that capital facilities plan when the comprehensive plan is updated at the county level, and we'll be providing a more in-depth, sort of deeper dive on what our development focus is over that 20-year horizon. And right now, we're only planning about 6 to 8 years out, but the capital improvement plan only really reflects that 6 years of that planning. Our capital improvement plan also has major maintenance in it in existing parks, as well as a category that we call stewardship capital development. And those are improvements to already existing parks. So if we're adding a recreation amenity to an existing park, that would be eligible for PIF dollars and would be considered capital. For us, major maintenance is considered capital if it improves the useful life of an existing asset and is generally over $50,000 in expense. So some of the things that we do, re-roofing buildings, renovations of existing park shelters or restrooms, those would show up on our major maintenance, in our major maintenance program. Playground replacements show up in our major maintenance program. And so that's why it's in our capital plan, because it's capital. Those things are capitalized. Next slide, please. So a little bit more on funding sources. Our funding sources are not entirely different than the stormwater transportation, clean water or transportation folks. We use real estate excise tax primarily for major maintenance. That stewardship capital category that I mentioned before, which is adding recreation, new recreation assets and existing properties. Those are PIF eligible projects. We pursue grants from the Recreation Conservation Office, the State of Washington Recreation Conservation Office. And then the new park capital development, which is basically building a new park, taking an undeveloped site and developing a new neighborhood park or a new community park. As long as those properties are within the urban growth boundary or they serve a portion of the urban growth boundary, the unincorporated part of Vancouver, they are PIF eligible. If they are beyond that service area, like a regional park development is not PIF eligible, but regional park major maintenance is REIT 2 eligible. You'll also see within our capital plan, the legacy lands acquisition dollars for the next 6 years. We, up until sometime last year, we were the Parks and Lands Division, and the Lands Division was spun off and it's now its own division. But for efficiency's sake, we've kept the legacy lands capital element, the acquisition element in the Parks and Nature capital plan. And then you'll see in our capital plan, park system planning, which isn't necessarily a capital asset, but it is an expense that we like to demonstrate to the public that we're doing the things that are required of us by RCW and local codes. So that you'll see our system planning work, the DEI plan, the ADA transition plan, the new Parks, Recreation, Open Space and Trails plan, those sorts of plans that inform the entire system in our capital plan. And those are funded by the GCPD levy. So our O&M program, operations and maintenance program, is funded through a levy that was approved by the voters in 2005 to provide recreation amenities, recreation resources, land, not land acquisition, but the PIF dollars or land acquisition, but it's focused on maintenance of our existing parks. Next slide, please. So here's a sort of year plan over plan breakdown of our capital plans. I don't have slides prepared this evening to share specific projects with you. I'm happy to run through some of those things if you have questions. This is sort of the trend and the breakdown of the dollars that are allocated within the capital plan. And this is just a comparison to show how the plan has fluctuated over the years, but it's sort of settling in the sort of $75 to $80 million range over a 6-year period. And I anticipate given PIF funding availability, REIT 2 funding availability, and staff resources, that will be sort of fluctuating in that range, if not declining slightly, as we update these plans annually. So next slide. This is a breakdown of the 26 to 31 plan by category. Again, we mentioned major maintenance, the stewardship capital improvement program, the new park development program. We do have a parkland acquisition program, but we're not actively looking for acquisitions in any of our park districts currently, PIF districts currently, except for PIF 7, because we have some PIF dollars that we need to spend before we need to deal with a concurrency issue. We have to spend them within a certain time. And then the legacy lands program, as I mentioned, and then the system planning. So it gives you a sense for how the programs fluctuate year over year, and sort of a breakdown of that balance between the different categories. I do have sort of for the stewardship capital development over the 6-year plan that totals up to about $15 million. And the new capital development is 18,800,000. So our sort of true capital program is about 35 million of the total you're seeing there over the 6-year time. So next slide. So before we jump into sort of our process, I will run through this really quickly. We have in 2026 a $2.8 million project in the stewardship capital development program for Salmon Creek Community Park. You mentioned that came up earlier in the clean water presentation. The Salmon Creek Greenway and many of the parcels along the Salmon Creek corridor are owned by parks, and the trail is managed by parks. In 2027, we are planning a field renovation project that is PIF eligible for 2 fields at Luke Jensen Sports Complex to convert them from natural grass to sports turf to make the maintenance easier, and to also increase the use of those fields to pretty much year round. And we'll be chasing a youth athletic field grant. We'll be submitting on a youth athletic field grant for that project. In 2028, we'll be making improvements to Pacific Community Park, which would include 5 pickleball courts and a new sports turf field that is hybrid fields, part softball, part soccer, so combination field. And we'll be making about $1.6 million of improvements to Whipple Creek in 2028 as well. Whipple Creek Regional Park, since it touches the PIF boundary, it's PIF eligible. And so we'll be making some improvements to that parking area. There's a lot of development going on around that property, that part of the urban growth area and just beyond. And so we're seeing a lot of visitation increase at that property. And then in 2029, in our stewardship capital program, we'll be doing significant facelift to Orchards Community Park. It's one of our larger, older parks in the urban growth area, and we're going to be renovating that playground and adding a water play feature there, a new bathroom. Those program improvements will focus on improving handicap accessibility at the property, because it's an older property that has a lot of areas that aren't accessible by the public. And then quickly, in new development, that $18 million over a 6-year period, we have 2 new neighborhood parks that will be constructed in 2028. Our Minnehaha property will be developed as a neighborhood park, and our Mount Vista property will be developed as a neighborhood park. And then in 2030, Cougar Creek Woods property, which is up in the Philida neighborhood. And then in 2031, the Prairie Sports Complex, which is not in the urban growth boundary, but is PIF eligible because it serves 2 different PIF districts. We'll be doing a major renovation of that property. Next. Oh, well, let's go through this really quick. I apologize. So we first went to our Parks Advisory Board back in May, presented largely the same slideshow that you've seen this evening. And then we opened a public comment period shortly thereafter, and we had we received public comments during that period. Went back to the Parks Advisory Board with a slightly modified plan on the 10th of June. We're here in front of you this evening for this work session, and then we'll be returning on the 21st as well, seeking the same approval, the support of the 26 to 31 Parks Capital Improvement Plan, and then we'll be going to council along the same timeline as the transportation team and the clean water team. Next slide, please. That's the breadth of my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions and get any feedback from you that you're willing to give.
Questions? Jack?
So how do we currently fund maintenance of parks? And is that, especially as we're adding new parks, and is that a stable funding source? And is it adequate?
It is, it's stable. And that might be one of the larger issues that we have because it doesn't really grow over time. It is a levy. It's a mill levy that was adopted in 2005, as I mentioned earlier, at I think it's 27 cents on $1,000 value of a home, but that has that rate ratio has decreased over time because it's fixed by the dollar, not fixed by the rate, the ratio. So it's now down to, I think, between 12.5% and 13% per $1,000 in value, and it's only about $4 million a year. So we're working internally and then eventually with all of the municipalities on having a conversation about creating a more sustainable source of operations and maintenance funding. And that's part of the reason why we've shifted so much of our focus toward stewardship capital development. It's a less of a maintenance burden to add recreation amenities to existing properties than it is to develop new.
Sure. But it looks like we're in effect losing revenue every year and increasing the amount of maintenance required as we add new parks. So if it's a fixed dollar amount, so your operating budget is shrinking compared to the overall demand on your services.
I would say that it's not shrinking. I would say that we're thinning the soup by adding facilities without adding maintenance dollars. We're spreading those maintenance dollars over more and more properties.
Sure.
And we're asking more and more of our maintenance staff, and that's part of the reason for slowing down the rate of development. Early on in the formation of the Greater Clark Park District, there were years where we would develop 3 or 4 or 5. I think one year we even developed 6 parks in 1 year.
So my last question here is can you? I didn't understand the difference between parkland acquisition and legacy lands acquisition. What's the difference there?
So parkland acquisition is purchased with park improvement fees for the purposes of developing recreation assets. Legacy lands is through the Conservation Futures Fund, and it is those lands are acquired because they have habitat or conservation value, and we occasionally will develop a portion of those properties in collaboration with the lands management section, but most of the time those developments would be what I would call natural resource-based recreation amenities like shoreline access, regional trails, bird watching facilities, boat launches. We have a boat launch on a Legacy Lands property. So they're not intended to be purchased for ball field development or irrigated turf, those sorts of things. So that's the primary difference and the funding source.
Thank you.
This is Eldon. Is there anything in this Parks and Nature Capital Improvement Plan that enhances fish habitat?
We do a lot of fish habitat work, but it's primarily in collaboration with lands management. So we're working on a park plan for the Gordy Joma Family Natural Area, which is on the upper reach of the Salmon Creek watershed, and working in partnership with the Cowlitz tribe on a big habitat improvement project up there and a recreation project. It's the old Cedars Golf Course, which we purchased a few years ago. And so whenever possible, we'll collaborate with our lands management folks on habitat improvement. We, especially on the properties that are sort of what I would call regional open space parcels, or our regional parks, even like Louisville Regional Park. Lewis River Regional Park, excuse me, we would through mitigation requirements and just habitat restoration efforts do improvements in that park if we had a project associated with it, because we can pay for it that way. We don't generally seek out funds exclusively for habitat restoration work.
Oh, that's too bad, because I fly fish, and the fishing for trout in this area sucks.
We do actively want to partner with the folks that are focusing on habitat restoration on our properties, but it's more of a lands management division focus, is to acquire property for conservation. The Ridgefield Pits project is a really good example of a lands management collaboration with other partners to make significant improvements to habitat. And they are actually doing some work on a property that they own and that we maintain, Daybreak Park, Lower Daybreak Park. So the boat launch side of Daybreak Park is going to receive it's going to be the next phase of the Ridgefield Pits. They're going to be doing a big sort of shoreline restoration and lay that cut bank back to sort of improve the runoff and the side channel access for fish in that stretch of the Lewis River. And so we've worked really closely with our lands management partners on that.
All right.
Right.
Sure. Commissioner Halbert here. On the fund allocation trends, you've got Camp Bonneville as zeros across the trends. And are you anticipating funds from them, or can you tell me more about what's going on there?
So we do have some money in the Camp Bonneville. We do have some money in the Stewardship Capital program for Camp Bonneville, but it's coming out of timber funds and the Army Fund. So it doesn't necessarily show up in our capital plan, and it's mostly facility assessment work. And Camp Bonneville is now a lands management property until the cleanup work is complete. When I first arrived in 2021, we were talking about doing a park plan for Camp Bonneville, and it just continues to get postponed until we can sort of clear the hurdles with the sort of last bits of the cleanup that need to be done. But I can tell you that I work closely with Kevin Tyler, our lands management manager, and support them in their work. And we are getting ready to do a water system assessment out there and a electrical system assessment out there to make sure that any improvements that we do take into account sort of a 20-year plan. There's a reuse plan for Camp Bonneville that was a part of the handover process from the federal government to the county. And so the park plan will largely reflect that reuse plan. And so we want to make sure that when we do any electrical system improvements out there or water system improvements out there, that we're not doing something that we have to redo later. It's not undersized, it's not the wrong location, those sorts of things. So most of the work going on in Camp Bonneville is going on sort of behind the scenes with timber money, Army money where permissible, and isn't necessarily considered capital. Slow bake, I would say.
Bonneville started when 2013, they were clearing it then. Knew we were going to do something with it. And then we went on and it just continues on. So any more questions? Okay, David, thank you very much for a rousing deal there. Appreciate your time.
I hope I was an okay finisher. Thanks for.
Oh, you did great. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. See you in a couple weeks.
All right. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. 3 down. Comments from members of the Planning Commission. Do we have any other comments? Good to see everybody.
I'll just throw out, I was talking with Eldon about it earlier, and hopefully Jeff can send you the latest updated schedule for the
Yeah, I heard.
EMA,
Yeah, I think
which kind of stretches
Yeah.
out to July, I think, right now. So
of next.
of next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jeff, if you'll make sure you include those guys in that schedule
Yeah.
too. It wasn't posted on the
Did you send that to me, Jeff? Already?
I've not emailed it to you, but it is on our website, but I will go ahead and email it to you and Jack.
All right. Thank you. Awesome. It's good to know. It is. Yeah. I was wondering. The meeting before it was like, oh no, things get strung out and strung out.
You were ready to take off in December, but now you're going to be stuck for another year.
Yeah.
Sorry,
You guys
Jeff.
need to know that I'm looking at my swan song. Don't have any reason to, so don't, I've enjoyed it. 2013. It's kind of like, I don't know. Maybe I get there and I'm like, that's cool. You guys are cool. It's fun. It's enjoyable. The summer really kills me. And I lost my sister last month. So it was, yeah, that's kind of where I've been, where my head, my daughter got married too. So that was all in 1 month. So anyways, I'm here, I'm doing the game and I love the summer. So I want to go where you were, Eldon.
There are meetings going to be scheduled in September. We will be meeting the normal first and third Thursday. They're not related to the comprehensive plan. It will be, I understand we're going to be discussing the mobile home park zone overlay. So we'll be doing a work session on September 4th and then a hearing on September 18th. And more information to come. Yes. Yeah. It has more the specific details about the dates for all the individual events coming up.
Okay. Anything else? Good to see everybody. Thank you for the pizza, Larissa. It was really nice. Have a good evening.